Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NPU Live. My name is Keri Rodriguez. Today is Thursday, April 30th, for those of you at home still trying to keep track of the days. Many of us parents out here, just resigning ourselves to the fact that, there's really only 3 days, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We're getting through it 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time sometimes, but we're doing it together. I'm here by myself this morning. My co-host and my partner, Tim, is actually on a parent-teacher conference this morning. And in this house, first things come first, and making sure that our kids are ready to learn and engaged and trying to get, all of the resources we can possibly get for them so that they're successful and not falling too far behind, number one. So we missed Tim this morning, but we'll see him again tomorrow. But so glad that all of you are with us from coast to coast. Going to be some tough weather for us in the Northeast, where I am here in Boston, Massachusetts this morning. A rainy day. We were lucky. We got outside. We had these boys outside running around, playing some catch, making sure that our mouths and our noses are covered and trying to do it as safely as possible. But it looks like we were only going to get one stretch of sunshine this whole week. So we wanted to make sure we took advantage of it. So I hope you're doing the same. Taking a look at the national forecast, it looks like everywhere from Virginia right up through Maine, going to have a tough stretch of weather the next couple of days as we see a front moving through the Northeast. So anyway, time to make sure that we are prepared for the day and we have all the news and information that we need to start the day. So as we always do, we give you some of the headlines from COVID-19 news reports. Over 1 million cases of COVID-19 across the United States, 1,064,572 reported cases with 61,699 deaths reported. More than half of United States so half of the states in the United States going to start reopening in various ways. So as we've been reporting to you, it's really important that you use your best judgment as to when it is time to reemerge. We are seeing some state parks open in New Jersey and California, although we do have some reports in California that Governor Gavin Newsom there actually going to be closing all state beaches and parks starting on Friday after this past weekend where there was a partial reopening, just an absolute flood of people. So even, if you're getting the word that some areas are reopening and restarting and you're going to be allowed to enter some public areas, use your best judgment. Again, make sure you're following those CDC guidelines for social distancing, trying to stay at home as much as possible, using your best judgment in terms of walking outside, utilizing parks, but keeping your mouth and nose covered, even the youngest of us. Here in Massachusetts, still going through a very difficult time. Yesterday was the highest death toll that we've had in a single day, reported yesterday. So for some of us, very scary prospect of the fact that some states are considering reopening in different stages. So we're going to continue to monitor that and give you the information that you need to stay safe and make sure you're staying as healthy as possible. Also want to remind you that this week is Virtual Spirit Week. We're joining with, our friends Colleen Cook and Wendy Gonzalez-Neal, 2 delegates to the National Parents Union and a part of our leadership body, the National Parents Council, promoting spirit this week. And today is favorite book day. So we'd love to see you sharing your favorite book, what you're reading with your kids at home. You can hit us up in the comments and make sure that you're sharing what you're doing at home so you can inspire other parents as well as you take on the day. So we definitely want to shout out our 2 powerful powerhouse delegates in Oklahoma and Texas, Colleen Cook in Oklahoma and Wendy Gonzalez-Neal in Texas, who are doing a tremendous job trying to keep our spirits up as we are in week 7 of the quarantine. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we'll welcome Sharonda Knott Dawson, talking to her about a very unique perspective. She is a parent who suffers with a chronic illness, so there are some unique challenges for parents that are struggling with their own chronic disabilities and issues in the best of times, and how she's making it through in her powerful example of how those of us who have disabilities are doing our best to try to support our children in this moment. So really, really powerful story from Sharonda. We're excited to welcome her. And don't forget, our programming from the National Parents Union all day long. This 9 a.m. show in English. At noontime, we come to you in Spanish with news and information and resources and powerful parent stories at noon in Spanish. 2 o'clock is our amazing show with Christina Laster for families who have special needs in that special community of which I am a part. Really important resources and stories and powerful examples being shown to you there. And then at 4 o'clock, Thursday is an exciting day because it's Dad to Dad. So dads across the country coming together to have an important conversation around how dads are getting through the pandemic and supporting their families, the feelings that they're feeling in a very safe space. So that they can have that discussion about what they're going through and how they are supporting their children and families in a very unique conversation. So that's at 4 o'clock today. And then of course, at 9 o'clock, don't forget, Marisol Rarucha coming to you live from San Diego, California with our social emotional checkout for parents. How is your spirit? How is your heart? As we get through these days, let's check out together. Let's get through this together and release some of that tension at 9 o'clock. We'll come together, tell some stories, talk about what we're going through, and get some experience, some strength, some hope from parents across the country who are doing extraordinary things, both in their homes and in their communities. So don't forget, 9 o'clock tonight with Marisol Rarucha. If you have any questions, any feedback, any ideas for us, you want to share your story, we love having you as a part of this network and this beautiful family. More than 200 organizations across the country reaching over 1 million families every single week with this broadcast. Share with us by emailing us at info@npunion.org. Share this broadcast. Make sure you hit us up in the comments. Make sure that you're reaching out to us, because the only way we're going to get through this is getting through it together and sharing our experience, sharing our struggles, and sharing our joys. Because in this time of unprecedented challenge, there is also extraordinary things happening and new connections and new ways of life being introduced to all of us. And we've got to get that sparkle and that inspiration through these moments. So thank you so much for being with us. And now, as we do on Thursday mornings, we turn to Austin, Texas, our friend Mira Brown, who joins us from Prepared Parents, to start us and center us with some tips, some ideas, some best practices on what we can do to get through this day. And don't forget, you can go to preparedforsuccess.org or preparedparents.org to sign up for her tips and get them right in your mailbox as soon as your eyeballs open. Mira, so nice to see you. How are things going in the Brown house today?
Oh, they're good. It's Thursday. I declared it a 3-day weekend, and so today is my kids' Friday.
Tell us about declaring the 3-day weekend. I've been talking about how I'm the superintendent of this house.
Yeah.
So weekends and vacations happen on my schedule when I feel like we need it. So what's going on over there that it's 3-day weekend?
It's just, I'm tired, and I can I feel it, I feel myself getting to the point of sort of no return, right? Where you start, it's been fine. That's the interesting thing, right? Like this week actually has been okay comparative to other weeks in the last 7 weeks that were definitely much more of a struggle. But I think sometimes, at least with myself, like when you're in that, you're just going because you have to. And then I just feel myself, I'm like, I think tomorrow the kids can just play all day.
Now that we're in week 7 of just taking our own temperatures of and taking a real harsh look about what's going on in this house. And if things are too crazy, we need to just shut it down. If we try to bulldoze through, whether it's, problem solving or trying to get kids hooked up on laptops, all this stuff, I just find you're probably doing more damage. There's not a lot of learning going on if you're not in a good headspace. And sometimes it's just time to call it and say, you know what, this is not happening today.
And we've been on a very, and it's been working, but we've been on a very I've shared this kind of strict schedule, not so much for the kids, but for my husband and I, trying to do both of our full-time jobs and have the kids at home, right? And so, up at 5, working through till this, then I immediately jump off. I'm with the kids until 1:30. Then I get back to work. He, is with the kids. Then you go right into bedtime, which is crazy with a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. And then it's 9 o'clock, and then the emails have flooded and you're right back to, and so last night at around 11, I was finally getting in bed and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this on Friday, and it's okay, and so So things are good. It will be a 3-day weekend. There will be no Zoom tomorrow. There will be no activities. There will be no apps. There will be no stress and guilt about it. It will just be, it's supposed to be a gorgeous day here in Austin. That's my plan.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon, like we saw some rays of sunshine outside. And it was literally going to be the 1-2 hour period that we're getting. Because in the Northeast, like,
yep, it's raining.
Crazy this time of year, where you will have like a 70, 80 degree day one day, and then it will snow the next day. So like, you got to grab it when you get it. And with all these little boys, like you gotta take them outside. You gotta run them. You gotta run off that energy.
All the pictures, like the big dirt hill. Was that yesterday?
Yeah, the big dirt hill. Like, let's go get dirty and run up some hills and roll down some hills. And, and it's funny because thank goodness for Tim, because he calls me a stick mom, because like I'm the only woman in our family, and there are a lot of little boys. And so I've never been a little boy. I always understand the fascination with sticks, with dirt.
Oh my gosh.
With rocks. If I could tell you how many rocks I have, that I have been given, special rocks that I can never get
taught, you can't move there. I know.
Ooh, I know. Goodness. And I will never move them because I love them. My rock collection is beautiful and deep, but it's something that just a little boy, you just has a little boy, and you got to get out in the dirt, and you got to move your body, and you got to run off some energy.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim gets it. So Tim I'm a reformed stick mom. When they pick up the stick, he's like, boys do sticks. Like, that's a thing. Like that, as long as they're
it's so hard.
Let them stick, like it's
everything hard. Becomes a like the part of our backyard. Again, I'm very lucky. I'm in Texas. We have land, land and space compared to what I had when I lived in California and then growing up in New York City. But so there's like the back part of our yard became a fort and a castle, and everything is a fort and a castle right now. And then every stick and every rock in there is somehow, protecting it's just. And I'm like, could the stick be, not a weapon? Or nope. Like, there's a whole imaginary world going on. And my husband has had to be like, Mira, it's okay,
That's what they do. Yeah. And I am always base, which I kind of love and hate, because like my kids being 7, 8, and 12, like when they come running full speed at me to like just wrap their arms around me to be safe, like that'll knock the wind out of me right now. Cause being barely 5'2", they're getting pretty big and they're pretty solid, and oh my goodness, there's a lot of them. Yeah. But I also love that I'm based and I'm home and I'm safe when you touch mom. So
I'm glad you got that time yesterday and that you got some sunshine.
And I'm glad that you're going to get it tomorrow, because boy, do our boys need that outside sunshine. They just need it in their lives.
So. Well, it'll be interesting, like you said, here in Texas. My husband and I need to sit down and have a conversation this weekend, because I think we're still trying to figure out what opening up means, and like, what does that mean for us as a family? And we're opening up, but I'm not planning on going to restaurants or a movie theater or the mall. I never went to a mall before this. I'm certainly not going during this. I don't like malls, but like, and so, yeah, they're just like this. It will be a very interesting weekend to see how Austin, because technically we're still at a stay-at-home order through May 8th. I don't know, like, I think as an individual, as a parent, as a human being right now, it is just such the uncertainty just sort of continues. And I think that's just part of the exhaustion too, right? But it'll be interesting to see.
We're having, as the National Parents Union and all of our delegates and organizations across the country, we're seeing a lot of governors and folks making decisions based on politics. And we are coming together to have a conversation saying, okay, where do we stand on this stuff? Yeah. You can open whatever you'd like, but we're not ready. And so we've started to come up with a punch list of things that, we're going to expect from schools, from public buildings, for us as parents to feel comfortable exposing our families. Things like, when we hear, I was talking to some folks in Wyoming yesterday, where they're literally going to, like, they've started to open some school and try it out.
Like hybrid,
I just think is stunning because they have decided to open up schools to special needs children and voc tech kids who, in Wyoming are mostly Black and brown as cases, because those kids apparently are expendable and can be guinea pigs. And, we're just going to try it out. And hey, if we lose the special ed kids because we don't get this right, apparently,
oh my goodness, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Stunning that that's happening. And I hope that's the next major national conversation that we have. I'm going to be fighting like hell against that because it's ridiculous. Our children are not guinea pigs, and certainly not our special eds and our Black and brown kids. How is that going to happen on our watch? But when you think about, what I want to hear and what I need to hear as a parent before I'm comfortable, I want to hear about before we even talk about education and whether or not you're prepared to help my child catch up if there has been learning loss. I want to hear about updated standards, hygiene, cleaning, how many times are you going to be washing the desks in the hallways, and what are the new procedures going to be? Frankly, in the city of Boston, we have schools that don't have running water.
I know.
Kids can't wash their hands. Tell me about how you can handle that. How are you going to make sure that every child in America entering a public school building is going to have a mask that is regularly replaced to make sure that it's effective? I want to hear every single procedure before you're going to have your hands on my baby again. And I haven't heard that. So you can open whatever you'd like, but this mama is not
sending.
Show me something. And I haven't seen anything. So to me, at this point, you can play whatever politics you want, but these are still my babies.
Yeah.
And
here in Texas, like the malls and the restaurants or something, again, I need to go do, because you sort of get multiple conflicting messages. And so again, as a individual, you're sort of left to be like, wait, I don't understand. It's opening, but it's at 25% capacity, but public schools are shut down, but daycares might be. And so, yeah, exactly. You're just sort of like, is it safe?
And then here in Massachusetts, we had the highest death rate in a single day that we've had in the entire course of the pandemic. And you're opening what? For what? Like, I'm sorry. Like, what are you talking about right now? You're opening, like, you got 250 people dying every day. Like, in places like Wyoming, you're having like hot spots where you're actually
now popping up.
So what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I know.
What are your priorities right now? I'm sorry, Mira, but
no, you're not wrong. And it's what we're all feeling, and so you just had mentioned Texas as being one of the states, and that's where I live. So I feel it. It's acute. It's just not knowing what, we're not going anywhere. Let's be super clear. When I say we're going to talk about it, like I said, I'm not going when do I have time to go to a movie anyway? I'm not going to a movie. I'm not going, to a restaurant. I'm not, but other people might be, right? So when you're all in it together, you can sort of have a trust, right? And so now it is different. Now, what are the social standards when you're walking around your neighborhood, when you're out and about, again, sort of in your vicinity?
Because that person who's walking down the street wearing a mask may have just come from the movie theater.
Yeah.
You don't know, like,
that's different. Where it's just where all that has happened and is that, all is not equal in that, right? We were all in it together. And there is a safety in that, right? There's an emotional side to that. There's a safety in that. And now all governors are doing and people are doing is basically saying, you make a decision, which is now the real tensions, I think, are gonna start. This is just my personal opinion, right? But I think this is when really, because people are gonna be making different decisions for them and their family, and it's just gonna get tougher.
It is.
Anyway.
Mira, your exercise yesterday that you gave us, that worksheet, just kind of taking us through kind of the 5 principles of what's most important in this moment. So powerful. Today you have another activity for us that I'd love for you to take us through, and you can put that up on the screen too, because it was so helpful to think about. We have a lot of resources being thrown at us. We have so much information, but centering ourselves in, making sure that we're grateful. That, again, I just go back to that telling us about mattering. You went through the exercise.
I did it with my son. I'm happy to, it's definitely harder with a little one. I totally recognize that with a 6.5-year-old. And there's my email. I can share if you guys want me to. You might want to take my email down.
Yeah, we can go ahead and take the email down.
And thank you. So this one is next, but yes, I did go through the exercise, and it is fascinating, right? When you ask, there were a couple of fun things that came up before I get to Whoop, which is our next one, which is, you focus on, yesterday's was about sort of bringing together gratitude, what motivates you, what are you interested in, what do you feel, what abilities, that you feel confident in, what are you proud of that you can do really well, that you're proud of, how do you know you matter, right? Like, how do you know, what are the things, and what's one new thing that you want to learn, sort of how do you chase your curiosity? And it was a little bit of pulling teeth with my 6.5-year-old, but part of that is sort of how he thinks, and he's sort of all over the place. But I will say that when I asked him, what are you grateful for? He literally immediately goes, Halloween, Easter, Thanksgiving, President's Day, Christmas. Even threw President's Day in there. Like, okay. Like, that's not one I would have thrown in there, but somehow that was like top of mind. And then sort of interests were, we have these rings that he does to sort of calm his body as part of his sensory. And so, like rings that you pull yourself up on. And so swinging on the rings, playing video games, pretending in my castle, building swords. That's the stick thing we just talked about. And using nails to create things. I was like, what is happening in the afternoons while I'm working? But I was like, okay. Yeah, project time daddy, I guess. I don't know. And I can go on, but like it was very interesting to just sort of get into his brain a little. And then I had my niece, I won't go through hers, do it, and she drew like a little thing on the back. She's very artistic.
I love these.
And she's like, I have to do this. I was like, yes, I would like you to do this, please. And then at the very end, she came to me, she goes, by the way, her curiosity, what's the one thing you want to learn how to do? She wrote learning to fly. Okay, I can't meet that one right now, but that could be a future goal, which is what we're going to talk about today. But anyway, so we did it.
Learning to fly comes up often in this boy family. Max and I had a long talk about learning to fly and how people have always been trying to do it. And he may be the one to accomplish it. That is a major goal for him too. So
that would be amazing.
So what are we
about today? Yeah. So speaking of goals, I think that's actually a good lead. And I wanted to follow up to a conversation we had. Oh my gosh, all the days are blurring together. It's been 7 lovely weeks together, but one of these weeks about how making a new plan has the capacity for adults, right? How making a new plan has the capacity to actually lower our stress and lower our anxiety, right? And each of us in this COVID world, in this phase, has lost something, right? Has had something that has been canceled or changed, a big life moment, some goal, plans for the summer, whatever it might have been. And the act of making a backup plan gives us a feeling of accomplishment, taking initiative, problem solving, right? And sort of spurs us on. And so I wanted to think about like, what is that for kids, right? What can our kids, what's a goal, a skill that our kids can develop, but they can be doing right now that gives them that same sense of accomplishment and confidence and pride and eases stress and anxiety. And so thinking about the future, and we've talked about this, thinking about the future and knowing how to set goals is hugely important to kids. It's a life skill. It's something that they're going to have to do every single day. It's something we do every single day in our careers and all of that. And when I dived into it, it was really interesting. There's this sort of old adage, right, of like, think positively. We hear this all the time. We tell our kids this. I was told this all the time, like, dream big, set ambitious goals, reach for the stars, right? All of these things that we sort of tell our kids, and they're all really well-intentioned. But 2 decades worth of research will actually, sort of around the science of human motivation, will actually tell you that they're wrong. And I thought that was really interesting. And I remember when I was doing I was like, wait, I need to read that again. Like, did I just read that right? That thinking positively doesn't actually lead to success. And it's true. And the reason why is that when we only think positively, right? Because we always tell our kids that, think positive, right? When we only think positively, we tend to get lost in that sort of daydreaming, right? In that big goal, we create this sort of rosy mental picture of that thing that we want, that goal that we're setting. And we ultimately completely underestimate the obstacles that might arise to reaching the goal.
Mhm.
We focus on the goal and we make no plan.
Yeah.
And obstacles are actually what can either lead to success or lead to failure of our goals, right? And so how do we help our kids do that? And so so learning to fly, we'll make that our goal. There's something called WHOOP. It is a science-based mental strategy. It's about 20 years old. It came out of two psychologists and researchers at New York University. It's been expanded on. It's been used in the classroom by Angela Duckworth and Character Lab and work that's happening. And it's choose a wish, imagine an outcome, and I'll pull this up. Imagine an outcome, identify an obstacle, make a plan. WHOOP is what it stands for, right? So you will mentally imagine a positive outcome of achieving this goal, one obstacle that stands in your way, either within yourself, right? That stands in your way. And that reflection actually leads you to make a plan to get over that obstacle, to like get around that obstacle.
So how do we do this? Like, this sounds like a really intense kind of processing that you've got to go through. Can we do this with our kids quickly? How do we do that?
So it's not as intense as it sounds. And I think that's why WHOOP actually is so successful, is because it actually boils down the process into a few simple steps. So let me share my screen and I can pull up. I learned to do this. You'll also thank you for having patience with me. Let's see if this works. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Okay. So it is simple steps, and there's multiple. You can download from preparedforsuccess.org. There's multiple versions of this, but the way to think about this is literally like, this has been used in all areas. People have lost weight. Like, it's been proven to help people lose weight, get better grades, whatever your goal might be, right? And so you choose an area, for your kids, whatever it might be: school, home, relationships, hobbies, learning to fly, exercise, right? And what is your wish, right? What is the thing that you want to accomplish? So, for me, you and I have talked about this, but I want to exercise more regularly. It's important to me. My husband has said multiple times that that's how, like, I have better days when I exercise regularly. So you pick a time frame. It can be tomorrow, it could be today, it could be, this is a goal I want to hit in the next 6 months, whatever it might be. And then you imagine what's the outcome, right? The outcome is that I'm going to have more energy, I'm going to feel better, right? Whatever that positive outcome is going to be, the reason why you're setting, right, that wish and that goal. And then you think about the obstacle. Well, an obstacle for me, right, is certainly time. And it's sometimes motivation. Like, I don't, even though I know that I want that, I'm not necessarily motivated every single day to do it. So what's one way I'm going to overcome that obstacle? And you're going to laugh because I literally did it, is I go to sleep in my running clothes. I put on my running clothes before I go, but because I have no excuse then when I wait, that's my plan. That's how I'm going to overcome my obstacle. And that's the plan that I'm going to make. If I go to sleep in my running clothes, then I will get up, I will do my work, I will get my kids in the, scooter and rolling stroller, and I will go for a run. I don't have to change. Like, that is one less obstacle on my way.
That's time, all of these things. Exactly. So you've got to do it. Well, all of that makes sense. And this is something that we can actually run through with kids. I think that, this makes sense. So I think we're going to try this afternoon to see if we can get through and really go through it, because this was really helpful yesterday, us kind of centering ourselves in the things that are most important through the exercise we got from Prepared Parents yesterday. And then this is like the next step. It makes so much sense to kind of say, okay, now that we've centered, like, what are the things that are keeping us blocked? What are the things we wish we could do, we wish could happen? And how do we put those things into action? So I think this is incredible.
And the act of it is the act of planning. You would think it's the opposite, right? But the act of planning for that obstacle is actually what energizes you, because then you see the other side of it and you're like, this is totally accomplishable. I can do this, right? And that's the pick me up. And again, it can be used by adults, it can be used by kids, it's used in classrooms, we can do it at home. And so another option for us to help our kids every single day, like you said. And so give it a try, let me know how it goes. I'm going to do the same thing, and we can connect.
Well, Mary, we are going to try it this weekend. We're going to see how many of our guys sign up to actually go through this. But I think Tim and I will also go through this too, to set some goals and figure out, how we can plan to overcome, some of the stuff that we wish, but we don't have a plan to enact, actually taking these things out of our heads and putting them into action so we feel a little bit more in control and inspired about, what's happening right now. Mira Brown from Prepared Parents joining us live on NPU Live. Thank you so much from Austin, Texas. We'll see you on Tuesday of next week.
Yes.
So wonderful to have Mira and her tips with us every single morning, providing that information. If you go to her website, preparedforsuccess.org or preparedparents.org, lots of tools, lots of information, little bite-sized pieces. If you can do one thing during the day with your kids that keeps you all intact, the fabric of your family happy, and really focused on just making sure that you're getting through this in the most positive way you can. That's what we want to offer to all of you. So grateful for Mira. Now we have a very special guest who is joining us from Arkansas. A lady who is, just such a role model for so many of us who are parent activists and mamas who have signed up to fight the hard fight of advocating for our children. Just an extraordinary person. And somebody who just continues to give back to all of us and is a shining example for those of us fighting for equity, fighting for justice and education, fighting for our children and the next generations. We're so blessed to welcome Virginia Walden Ford to the program. Virginia, how are you?
I am wonderful, Keri. It's so nice to be here with you. I've been paying attention to what you all have been doing. I'm so proud of parents that have really have stepped up to the plate. It's just really a great thing.
And we hope that we're following in your footsteps, because you had to do this all on your own. And there are so many of us that have watched your example and have been inspired by it, but this work is hard, and we just feel that we needed to come together and form this National Parents Union so we could have some solidarity and to learn from you and from others how we could fight and share our resources so we could be stronger. So, you've just inspired us so much. It's so wonderful to be able to connect with you directly.
Oh, absolutely. But I've been watching you. You all have made me incredibly proud as a parent activist, to watch parents fighting through this. This is difficult. Has been wonderful to me. I just live on sites where parents are talking and trying to do things. And this is what I've always said. Parents are just incredibly powerful and should be included at the table of everything that's going on in education.
There's a lot of parents that get some lip service saying, oh, man, you've got an incredible story, your incredible leadership. We hear this, but you were so inspiring. Hollywood came to you and said, we got to make a movie about you, because you the passion. So, I think a lot of us, put you up on this pedestal, but you're a mama and you're a grandmama and you came to this work fighting for your kids. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey for folks that might not be familiar with it?
Well, years ago, I always watched my children and what was going on. I was really blessed because I had two kids that were just really academically driven. But my third child is the child that we're all fighting for now, that child who everybody looks away from and always says, this child is not going to make it in. And why bother? Why even try to fight for him? Because he's just not going to make it anyway. And I decided I would not lose my children to the streets or the drugs or any of that. And I needed to do something. But, the world convinced me I was just a mother and that I didn't have any right to get myself involved in his educational journey. And even if I did, I didn't know enough to do that. And it just made me mad. I'm like, oh, look, this is my child. I was his first teacher. I taught him the ABCs. I taught him the colors. What do you mean I can't be involved? And I decided that at least I would speak out on behalf of my child. But as I began to speak out on behalf of my own child, parents around me were saying the same stories. They were saying, nobody wants to include us. Can't give input to what's going on with our children. And I realized at that point that, we had this opportunity right now to stand up and speak on behalf of all of our children, no matter who we were or where we lived or what our income was. Let's talk about what's going on with our children. And before I knew it, hundreds of parents had gotten involved in Washington. And these were the parents that everybody said didn't care about their children, wouldn't fight for their children. We don't want them involved. And I just felt and believed, and so did all these other parents around me, that was not the case. So we armed ourselves with information, which I love when you all talk about information and parents being informed and all of that, because that's exactly how I felt about it. We needed to arm ourselves with information about what was available for our children. What could I do? I found a program for one of my kids that had been in DC for 20 years, but kids from all over the country would come, but very seldom did they recruit DC kids in our own city. And so I realized that we had so much more to do as parents. When I was a little girl, my parents were teachers. And when I was a little girl, I remember them talking to parents all the time. And then things changed, and all of a sudden we as parents were not recognized as being able to give input. We weren't, all of a sudden we weren't the experts. But there are children, and we know our children better than anybody else. I always believed that my son, William, who is James in the movie, his name is really William. And I thought he was really smart, but nobody else did. They couldn't see what I saw. So it made perfectly good sense that I partnered with teachers and people in the education area to help him. Something could happen and I would say, well, William can do that. He does it at home all the time. And they would say, well, he won't do it here. And I said, well, let me help. And that started the journey. The journey was just really concentrating on my child. And then as parents came in on their children, and then somebody heard us and somebody decided that maybe we could do something else. Maybe we could, there were 146 private schools in DC. DC was the fourth worst school system in the nation. And something had to be done about that. And we knew that a lot of these schools could really educate our children in a different kind of way, and we look at our children differently. And so we went to those people and we talked to them. We fought a long time, and but the biggest fight was being heard. The biggest fight was the respect that parents deserved. Those were our biggest fights. Once we got beyond those kind of fights, then the process moved a lot faster. But initially, they dismissed parents, just dismissed us. And so it brings me a lot of joy to see parents around the nation, especially because this is a fight too, around the nation standing up for their children. And I remember I heard something a few weeks ago where it said kids are going to be terrible when school starts back. I'm like, why would you say that? Their parents will teach them, just like they did when they were babies,
That is something, and I know that parents across the country listening to you right now are identifying because you are singing our song. Like, your story, I feel like, is my story, is Bernita's story in Detroit, our friends in Minnesota, in California, in Tennessee. We hear this, like, we identify with you so deeply. we've gone through these fights.
Yeah.
Talk about, the first step is fighting for that respect that we should be. It is very bizarre that we have created this system.
It is, but it has been for a long time. We've been fighting for respect. I remember being dismissed from meetings, being told that I didn't understand. They didn't ask me if I understood. And I did understand. And, just being treated like I was not a part of that child's education. And I just protested that.
Whatever they want to do with our babies.
Yes.
Those are our children.
It's just crazy. It is bizarre. So the fight started off with just us being just tired of being put aside. In 1985, there was a teachers union magazine, a little booklet put out that said parents should not be involved in the educational process. And I'm like, oh, come on, guys. Yes, we should be involved in the education process. And we should speak out as much as possible and make sure something's going on my computer, Keri. I don't know what.
We can still hear you, but.
You can still hear me. So, I remember going to a press conference and saying, this is crazy. I am going to be involved as much as I can in the process of educating my child. I don't care what you say, and that was kind of the start of what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning. All I knew is that my children, and particularly this child, who's my youngest, deserved his mama voice to be heard. And so I tell parents all the time, which has been particularly fun watching you all get started, that your voices are being heard and being confident, and people listen. I remember the day that you got your 501c3, and I was like, yay! And that nobody understands how happy that made me. And so the journey has been only as a parent. And I appreciate everybody listening to me and everything, but my first job is now and always has been fighting for my kids, now my grandkids, now your kids, now everybody's kids. And the blessing of having this movie made is to hear parents' voices and to make sure that people understand that we have every right to fight for our kids. We have every right to be listened to. And that's the journey. But I'm a mama first, still.
I got to tell you, that's how I learn. People laugh at me sometimes because, sometimes we get invited to go and talk to people, some of these fancy education folks. And they always ask me, well, what's your title? What do you want to be called? I'm Matthew, Miles, and David's mama.
Yeah.
My most important job. That is why I'm on this planet. That's why I do this work. This work is.
Yeah.
I say all the time, they call me every name in the book other than the one my mama gave me. Like, they come for me all the time. But you know what? If I stay centered, and we all stay centered in the fact that, like, we do this not because it's fun, but because I'm their mama, and I don't have a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kids are going to get chewed up by this system if we're not in the fight. And I don't get it. This is not a hobby to me. I got to face those boys every single day. And if I don't, the consequences for my kids are lifelong. I don't stop this when they graduate from high school. Like, I'm in it for life. I'm in it for my grandbabies. Like, you're in it for your grandbaby.
Well, the nice thing that's been, I was talking to the kids one time, my grown adult, over 40 kids, saying, did it affect you that I was so involved in this fight? And they said, Mama, we knew you were fighting for us and for our children to come at that time, and for even several generations out. And somebody asked me, and I was really pleased that they understood that, because I was involved. I was gone a lot, and so I missed a lot of parties and games and stuff. But they were very proud. That's all that mattered to me, that I was doing something that would ultimately benefit them, maybe make them be better parents. And I look at I have 4 grandchildren. They're amazing children because they have amazing parents. But if I had chosen, and I don't like thinking about it, but if I had chosen not to speak out and not to fight for children, what would have happened to them? So it made me more confirmed, more assured that if parents don't fight for their children, the outcomes could be something you might not want to see. And my other thing that used to really make me mad is when they said single mothers or single fathers or poor people or, Black people or Hispanics or whatever, parents would not fight for their children. That is the one thing that made me just totally crazy. And I would say, I'd have meetings and I'd ask parents what they wanted for their children in communities that had been told they didn't care about their children, they didn't fight for their children. And they would last forever because there was so much that they wanted to say, that they wanted to talk about. And so, that has been a part that's made me really pleased to seeing all the groups that are springing up now, and not just as the result of the coronavirus, but even before, because you started before. And it's wonderful, seeing how parents can navigate this whole mess and be a part of their children's educational experience. So I tell people all the time, I don't know a lot, but I know a little, and I've learned a lot. And every time somebody asks me what my title is, I always say parent, always. So everything that's published about me usually says parent first, and then they can put anything they want after that, but parent first. So it's been an incredible journey, and this movie has been fun. It's just been fun.
And everybody should see this movie because I think it's wonderful. And honestly, we've been actually folks having some Netflix parties online. So if they weren't able to see it in the theater, that's been amazing to have these Netflix parties that, it's forcing me to really get into technology at my age. I don't really want to, but it's forcing me to do this. And so my 14-year-old granddaughter is walking me through all these processes, and she'll call and go, Grandma, you can do this. I'm like, I'm not sure, but so it's been really fun for me. The movie has done, I don't know if you've ever heard me share this, but I didn't want to do this movie initially. Initially, they came to me and said, will you do the movie? We want to do a movie about you. Will you do that? And I was like, only if it's about parents. Only if it can't be just about me. I understood that they needed to have a story of why a parent would get involved, but this is every parent's story, just differently told, but it's every parent's story. We all have stories. So I was really pleased that the movie shows the strength of parents being empowered, parents being powerful. That makes me really happy. Oh my God, I get wonderful letters from parents saying the movie inspired them. But I need for people to understand it's all of our stories. So the heroes are all parents, and that's really important to me. It's my legacy to this movement, and it really has created a powerful tool for everybody to use. And just having the hope and the inspiration that it's possible, that you are powerful. It's funny when people talk about empowered parents or powerful parents. Parents are powerful. Like, this is about stepping into that power and claiming it, not letting the system or other folks beat you down into thinking that you are powerless or you're stupid. I say all the time, just because you're poor, black, or brown doesn't mean you're dumb, and you don't know when people are talking down to you or trying to talk around you or over you, and trying to do things to you without you, which is not acceptable for you or your children. And you want to do that power and stand up. I got to ask you, and I think everybody should watch this movie. I think it's a powerful, inspirational tool about what you did. but we need you now, Miss Virginia. We are in a crisis and we need your leadership and your brain. So I want to take a few minutes to focus on the future and get your ideas and brainstorm with you live on the air here, because I feel like this time of unprecedented challenge is also a time of unprecedented opportunity. Parents are more engaged and more aware of what their kids are learning, what they don't know, what they do know, what they're excelling at, what they're not. We also got a whole bunch of options in front of us. We're getting so many resources thrown out at us, that now we also are empowered to be the curators of what our kids are going to learn in our homes. And if we decide that we trust the system enough to send our babies back, when I still have a lot of problems, I'm not ready to trust yet.
Well, I was listening to you before. There's no way I would send my child back right now until they answer many, many questions for me. And I don't think they can. I think the best way to do this is let the kids finish with their parents for the rest of the year. During the summer, look at how a partnership with parents and teachers and administrators, education system can be formed to take the kids back to school. I think that in my talking to my own children, and they're saying, I'm not sending my child back to school this year. 43 states have closed schools for the rest of the year. I'm concerned about those few that have not. And I think that we have to speak out more and say, and we parents have to speak out more and say, oh, no. I've been doing fine. I am learning more about how to navigate this whole education process than anybody. So let's get together and talk about how to send our kids back to school. So I'm more encouraged that because of this, we are putting ourselves, parents are putting themselves in a position where we're qualified, which I always thought we were, but they may not have. But we're definitely qualified to go be a part of the system. It reminds me of when I was growing up, and then I went to public schools. My parents were public school teachers, but everybody worked together for the benefit of children during those days. Parents were involved, churches were involved, teachers were involved. Everybody wanted to make sure that every child had the best they could get through the educational system. And I think that that's what we have an opportunity to do again. I think we can now speak out with as experts and say, I know what my child needs because I just taught him for a year, So let's make sure wherever he goes to school or whatever delivery system you choose, make sure that delivery system is the one that's best for my child. So I think this is a chance for everybody to get together. If there's going to be a silver lining in this whole situation when schools are starting back, the silver lining has to be the parents are working with schools to educate their children. When my oldest son went to school, I remember going to school and I was so excited this child was going to school. I never had a child go to school. And I remember going to the teacher and telling her that I wanted to come in once a week. I worked for an international organization at that time. And so I had some information that was useful, I thought. And I became the school parent, home teacher, play person. And I mean, it was just so much fun. When my second child went to school, I was not welcomed. I was kind of pushed away. When my third child went to school, but I still went. When my third child entered school, and they're kind of 3 or 4 years apart, but in age. So when he went to school, I was pretty much asked not to show up, and not to be involved. And I remember talking to my parents about that, and they were saying, sit down with the teacher and talk to her, be her partner. I had never thought of it that way. But in reality, in my age group, we saw that happen. And then at some point, all of a sudden, parents were not welcome into the schools. And this, and you were told, well, you don't know what you're doing anyway. We have to do this with the child, and you don't know about that. Well, Keri, we do now. I mean, if there's anything we've learned from this, is we've had the chance to work with our babies and know exactly what their needs are. And now we go back and we form partnerships with the school, but they've got to understand that that's what we're going to do. And I don't think we should do it sweetly. I think we should say we are empowered. We know what our kids need. And even though we love teachers, and because teachers are the people that we can work with, administrators and the system is what will push us aside. And we have to go in strong and work with everybody to make sure. I used to always say, it takes a village to raise a child, which is cliche and everybody always says it, but it does. We all should be working together for the benefit of the child. And even during this time, and I want to share this really quickly, but I have, my grandchildren are being taught by their parents, and I think their parents are doing a phenomenal job, but they're tired. And so this is a chance for grandparents to learn how to use Zoom and to help their children out a little bit. We do a class, my sister, who was a teacher, and I'm her assistant pretty much, but we do a little fun class with the kids every Friday on Zoom. And not only is it fun for them, it gives the parents a little bit of a break, and I get to see my grandchildren a lot, so there's so many benefits from everybody being involved in a child's education. And so I'm shouting out to grandparents out there, make sure you're doing something to help your children educate their children. So that I want to make sure I said that because I'm having a ball.
Well, I don't know how we would get through this time if we didn't have nannies and papas and grandmas and grandpas helping out,
Yes.
And they are centered to us being able to work and do what we do, and we would not be getting through it. So we love them and we lift them up, and they are just so important to us.
Yeah.
Virginia, I got one last question for you because our time is getting short here, but I gotta ask you this, and that's something we're thinking deeply about is what you said about parents assuming that they should be at the table and stepping into their power and making sure that they're a part of the conversation. But I gotta tell you, what makes me worried is what I see a lot of these systems just assume if you're poor, Black, and brown that our babies are broken. They're broken. They can only get so far. They're not capable of being proficient, let alone excellent. In this COVID-19, for a lot of the systems, I'm already seeing them start to say it. Oh gosh, well, you know what? These kids that were already so far behind, there's not going to be a lot we can do for them. Like they're already giving up on our babies. And we as parents, we're not going to give up. We're going to fight. We see firsthand, we are educating at home in different ways that may not conform to whatever system or style that they've come up with, but our babies are still learning. They're smart, they're beautiful, they're talented, they're not broken. They're just having different experiences. I want, if I'm willing to send my kids back to school and into this is right attitude that these kids are capable, they're going to catch up, they're going to learn, but I'm already seeing some of that attitude come in. Oh, these kids are too broken for us to how do we fight that? What's the message, and how do we change that mindset from the ground where these seeds are being planted right now?
Well, I think that they're going to say that because they have to. Well, let's go back to before the coronavirus, before we were quarantined and isolating ourselves and all of that, where there was already a pushback. I've been concerned about the system pushing parents back for a long time. And going back to the right around when I got involved, it was 96. And right around that time, there was not a lot of respect for parents being involved. And I see already, I read something yesterday about how once the schools, they're going to make the decisions for our children. They're going to tell us when to send them back. They're going to take care of the kids and bring them back up when this is over. I say the kids are probably ahead You know, I know my son says my grandkids are way ahead of what they're sending us, and their kids are in a great school, and they're doing work, distant learning problems and stuff every day. But he says having them be able to do it one on one with their parents is an amazing thing, and I think they're understanding more. Another parent called me yesterday and said, my child is really understanding this math, and because I was a math major, and so I helped them out from time to time, but he had not been. So I think they're going to resist the system, will resist the fact that the kids are doing well, and that those parents that are involved and really, working with their kids, as tired as it is and as hard as it is, they're going to show, the kids are going to show that they've done a good job. Parents have done a good job. And so, like I said before, we just have to go in with our voices strong and say, my kid is not doing badly. I did a great job. And with the confidence to say that, that creates those partnerships. I'm a big partner coalition kind of person. I mean, I believe that people have expertise. I believe the teachers are amazing in their expertise, but I think we are too. And so I think that we have to go back into whatever the future is going to be for education and make sure that they understand that our kids did not fall behind. For the most part. I mean, I work with a group of low-income families in Little Rock and who come to a program I do in my church. And so they've been calling and I've been trying to help them. There are people that don't know the computer, but you have to remember this last generation before this one was where it started not being a good thing, where kids started failing in schools. So too many of my parents did not graduate from high school that I worked with. But they want to try, and I have to give Little Rock credit. They've been pretty good at trying to help those families. So there will be some kids that will need some help going back. But it's the same thing we used to say when we were fighting for the scholarship program. Yeah, our kids are behind, but catch them up. Y'all so bad, catch them up, and we'll be there to help. And I saw parents who were never involved in schools become super involved, once their kids were in schools that better served them. And that was the bonus to all of this. I knew it would be good to get kids in better schools, but I didn't see myself as a parent how it was going to become a partnership with parents until it actually started. And it was wonderful seeing parents going to the schools, seeing parents talking to teachers. And that's what I'm hoping will happen. But I see it already starting, where people are saying, well, finally get these kids back in school away from these parents. And I'm offended by that. I get mad. I was going, get out of here. I want to write comments to everything I read and tell them, to back off, because parents are doing phenomenal jobs. And so are grandparents and aunties and cousins and everybody else. I certainly don't want to say that everybody's involved in the family, but I don't want them to say, well, we only did this because we had to, and that everybody was didn't want to do it, but they were forced to do it. Most parents are helping their children because they're their children, and you want the best for your children. So all the groups that have formed there are some groups that have formed since this started, and I hope they'll continue. I mean, my dream for the country is that parents work together with everybody else for the benefit of the children. I've been to too many meetings and too many forums where I hear parents say, where kids are never mentioned. It's always an adult conversation. Let's start talking about the kids. I love your story of your boys. I grew up with 5 girls, and then I had 2 boys, and I didn't know what to do with those boys. Too much energy. I didn't have nobody to call because my sisters had girls, and it was really interesting becoming mother of sons after having grown up with all girls. I had 4 sisters, and but it was so much fun. I learned to do things that I never thought I would do, and I think parents, mothers are learning that, and fathers are learning to deal with girls. If I see these commercials where the little girls are making up their dads, and I love them. I do, and so I think that if we continue with the courage and the passion and that we have now in the midst of this fight, then I think it'll be so different, but a good different. I'm trying to find silver linings in all of this. And the biggest silver lining I find, and I think about this daily, is how committed and outspoken and passionate we see parents. And if we're seeing it on Facebook or Zoom or wherever, they're seeing it too, right?
Yeah, and we're finding new ways every day to connect, to lift our voices, and to make sure people hear us. So, Miss Virginia, I can't even say, you did my heart so much good today. And I think you're healing parents across the nation who are, seeking this inspiration that we're going to get through this, that we are powerful, that we're going to come through this probably even better than we were before, more united, more strong, more confident in what we know about our kids. And so
yep.
Blessed that you joined us this morning.
Well, thank you all for having me. And if I can say one last thing, I would say, be strong, parent. That has always been my cry. And be confident in your abilities and in yourself. Because parents are not a joke. We are strong and wonderful. And 2,000 parents were involved in the legislative fight for the Opportunity Scholarship Program in D.C. And I will love them forever. And I'll be proud and humbled to stand with them. So that's what you have to do. Be strong.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you so much. And we're going to be looking forward to your inspiration and your guidance and your leadership. And we're going to need it in the years to come.
Oh, I'll be here. I'll be here, Keri. I've been watching you from the beginning, so I'm not going anywhere. And as long as I can help, I know a little.
So grateful for you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Herself, Virginia Walden Ford, joining us live on NPU Live, talking to all of us with her experience and her strength and her guidance and her leadership. Just extraordinary to listen to. Thank you so much for being with us. And again, you can watch her movie, watch her whole story on Netflix. You can have your own Netflix party, and I suggest you do it because it's powerful to watch her example. And I think so many of us will just find our stories reflected in what she brings to us. All right, turning away from Arkansas, we're going to check in with our friends in New Orleans. And so happy to welcome Peter Cook. Thank you, Peter, so much for being patient with us. Wonderful to have Virginia with us and to listen to her powerful experience and her example for all of us. So we so appreciate you sticking by with us so that we can check in with New Orleans and our friends down there. The National Parents Union actually born in New Orleans. So just very excited that we're able to check back in with them down there to see how they are doing. And so if we can bring Peter up on the screen, if he's available for us, we'll switch off and check in with New Orleans. Peter does extraordinary work. He's been involved in the fight to transform New Orleans education from the very beginning after that transformative experience post Hurricane Katrina. So we are really looking forward to just making sure that our kids in New Orleans are well taken care of and well represented. So I'm not sure if we have Peter. Maybe Peter has dropped off with us. And that's okay. We're looking here to see if he's available. It doesn't look like he is available. So we'll check back with Peter in New Orleans in a later broadcast. Hopefully he can join us tomorrow morning so that we can check in with him. But we're so grateful that all of you are with us this morning to share this special experience with Virginia Walden Ford. Just tremendous to have her with us. So thank you for being with us this morning. We'll return for Friday's broadcast tomorrow as we wrap up week 7. Week 8, here we come. We'll get through another weekend. Brighter, sunnier days are ahead. And so glad to be connected with all of you. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.